Good afternoon. I want to share a revelation, something the Lord showed me last night. The stone is already in the forehead of Goliath. Now, to me, in the Bible, I know stones to represent witnesses, and I know a person's head to represent prophecy. A quick search revealed that the forehead more specifically represents stubbornness, and persevering of attitude, and particularly in this situation, to allegiance of Satan. So when we put this all together, clearly we can see in these times how the stone is already in the forehead of Goliath, the witness to people's stubbornness, to their allegiance to Satan, which is prophetic. So next, of course, we should be expecting the cutting off of Goliath's head. Now, we all know in the story that David cut off the head of Goliath with Goliath's own sword. And this was the revelation that the Lord showed me, what this means. Now, recently on this channel, we covered a segment from the Gospel of Philip and the non-Hammadi studies. And then the Lord actually gave me a word that this is the criterion of judgment between right and wrong. And of course, the Lord is absolutely correct. So, this segment from the Gospel of Philip that we covered about the people of God and the rebellious in sin who are called animals, and how it applies and how God always turns them on each other for his judgment. We see this throughout the Torah and the 5 books of Moses, the story of Gideon's army. We read in apocryphal texts that the giants were destroyed this way in the days of Genesis 6, and so on. So this is how God deals with the multitude of his enemies. He makes them destroy each other. So in essence, this would be the type and shadow in the prophetic context of why David cut Goliath's head off with his own sword. Because that is, again, just the type and shadow of the enemy being forced in a situation to turn on each other. Now, we also see this in the Book of Mormon, when Nephi got the brass plates of Moses and got the sword of Laban. I apologize, I can't really cite the verses and stuff like that. It's in the first book of Nephi. And these brass plates that Nephi got from Laban are our uncorrupted scriptures of the Torah, of the books of Moses. And they will be restored to us in a later time. But he cut Laban's head off with his own sword. And that is, of course, prophetic in nature. But we also read in the Book of Mormon how Nephi took Laban's sword and took it for the kingdom, and he eventually melted it down and made other swords with it. And the Nephites defeated the Lamanites with those swords, so that with those multitude of swords that they made. So that's a prophetic type and shadow of smaller increments of the enemy fighting each other, just little segments of Gideon's army, so to say. Really amazing. So specifically, how these types and shadows that we read of in the Book of Mormon apply to us today, prophetically, I think time will only tell. But one thing definitely is for sure, is that Goliath's head will be cut off, and I do believe it'll be cut off very soon.